Happy day, college football fans. Once again, thanks for joining me on another episode of Walk It Off with Chappy. Today I'm going to give you my pick and preview of the UCF Knights, a 3-point home favorite, playing in the bounce house against the SMU Mustangs. Now, this is a case of two teams that really want to get off to a great start in conference play, and these are two of the top three teams in the AAC this year, Cincinnati being, in my opinion, the one at the top. But these two should duke it out for that number 2 spot. And if you go back at the beginning of the season, I actually picked UCF to win the AAC. Right now, Cincy's playing the best ball, but these two are right up there. So let's look at UCF. They're very good at running the football. They average 276 yards on the ground, mainly with their quarterback John Rice Plumlee, a great Gus Malzahn quarterback running that scheme, who makes good decisions in terms of the RPO game. He can clean up his 3 interceptions to 5 touchdowns. That mark can improve a little bit more, but he's completing 59% of his throws, and he's averaging nearly 6 yards on the ground. He is one of their best runners. Johnny Richardson is averaging almost 8 yards per carry on the ground. RJ Harvey is starting to come in a little bit more, averaging over 6. And then you've got Isaiah Bowser, who's their touchdown leader. He's the bruiser in short yardage and goal line situations. So he's only averaging just over 3 per carry, but those are yardage that he's getting when they need to move the sticks or when they need to cross that plane. In terms of the passing game could improve, although they're getting solid production out of Javon Baker and their tight ends, Alec Holler, Kamora Gamble, Ryan O'Keefe, a veteran who is very hard to corral on the open field. He's also provided some spark and some explosion there. You look on the other side for SMU's defense. SMU is pretty good at getting after the quarterback. They've got 11 sacks this year, but 10 of those 11 sacks have come from the defensive line, namely Nelson Paul and Elijah Chapman. They each have 3 apiece. So SMU is going to try and frustrate Plumlee and force him to move out of the pocket, but not up in the pocket, try and corral him, force them to get into punting situations, and force him to, in their sake, hopefully make a mistake downfield. Now, flip it over. UCF, defensively, they're good, but they're not great, but they are pretty good at creating havoc. So they're number 25 in tackles for loss, number 36 in sacks, and going after SMU quarterback Tanner Mordecai, who has been sacked 9 times this year, is going to be pivotal to their success. The back end for UCF, they hold teams to limit their passing yards, but they are giving up some stick movers, and in terms of pass efficiency defense, they're about average, but in terms of keeping things in front and limiting the explosive plays, UCF does do a pretty good job of that. Stars for them on defense, Trayvon Morris-Brash, number 33. He's got 2 sacks, he's got 2 passes defended, and he's also forced 2 fumbles, he's recovered 2 fumbles. So he's really like Johnny on the spot, or Tremaine on the spot, or Tremont on the spot, I should say. I'll get that name right. Then Quadric Bullard, a good safety in the back end, and Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste is a good roaming linebacker. He does well. He's a solid tackler. He can bring the heat, but he also can drop and cover the pass pretty well. For SMU on offense, Mordecai, having kind of pedestrian numbers relative to his standards. He's completing 58% of his passes for about 277 yards per game. He does have 12 touchdowns, but 5 INTs, and that's going to be the key for UCF. They're going to need to create turnovers. They haven't really done as good of a job creating turnovers, especially in intercepting passes like they would hope to. But on the other end, SMU is -3 in the turnover margin, and they've thrown 6 picks. So 5 from Mordecai, 1 from his backup Preston Stone. If UCF can take the ball away from SMU early and get on the field, stay on the field, and kind of grind out that clock with the solid run game that they have, I like UCF here as a 3-point favorite at home. And here's another thing to consider. So in this series, UCF leads the series 8-2, but one of those losses was last year when they got stampeded by the Mustangs out in Dallas. This team, and especially this coaching staff, who was in their first year last year, they remember that, and I don't think that there's anybody better that they would want to go up against in their AAC opener. Here's the other kicker as well. You've got the Malz-shlee Bowl, I'm going to call it. So Gus Malzahn, the teacher, going up against his former pupil, his mentee, Rhett Lashley. Lashley has enormous respect for Malzahn, as Malzahn does for Rhett in his own right. But you've kind of seen it, and I've experienced this personally as well when I was in the coaching ranks. When you go up against your mentor, somebody that you hold way up here, you want to beat them. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing more than you want than to beat your mentor. But at the same time, you out of that respect, I wonder if Lashley is going to kind of inadvertently take the dog out of his dogs, meaning when it comes down to winning at all costs, doing whatever you got to do to get that W, I think the respect factor there, and maybe a little subtle intimidation from his teacher, that's going to play into it. Plus the fact that this is the third try at this game. It was supposed to be played on Saturday. Hurricane Ian pushed it back to Sunday, and then about 24 hours before they were supposed to kick, they decided to push it back even further to tomorrow, Wednesday. Now that certainly hurts the visiting team much more than it does the home team. So UCF really hasn't had to deal with any travel. They haven't had to rearrange too many of their plans because they can just stay home. They know they're playing in their backyard. SMU, on the other hand, has to go through all that logistical stuff. And there's something to be said about the psyche of the coaches and the players when you're expecting to play on one day, then you got to push it back a day, and then you got to push it back another 3 days amidst all the other stuff that they've got going on in their lives, i.e. academics, because these are student athletes. I still believe that. So all that factored in, and the fact that it's at Orlando, it's at night, it's on primetime ESPN2, by the way. So give me UCF -3 over the SMU Mustangs, but make no mistake about it, these are two very good teams in the AAC, and one of these two teams will be playing in the championship. You can mark that down, I guarantee it right now. I'm Chappy, this is what I know.